2010. The FY 2011 spending priorities are contained in the budget, as we said, and they included the priority of placing the Hays study as part of the budget for the allocation. Even with the reduced revenue projection, we still included budgeting for the Hays study increase in this fiscal year's budget. The unbudgeted items that we continue to hear as being the reason why we have this huge financial crisis in the government of Guam really composed of two things that we can actually quantify from a budget perspective. And the unbudgeted items in the FY 2010 is, of course, the Calvo Select Care contract appropriation for the health insurance for government of Guam employees and retirees. When we passed the budget, the final contract and the cost of that contract was not known to the legislative body at that time. So we passed the budget. They had concluded their negotiations, but we were not informed of what that number was. We passed the budget, transmitted it to the governor, and the governor signed the budget. When the contract for the health insurance was sent to the governor, the additional cost that was agreed to that we could quantify was that the appropriations that were contained for FY 2011 in the health insurance contract was short by about $20.8 million. So that's one item that we know is not included in the budget and we have to address. And the governor has continued to pay that contract amount over and above the appropriation levels. And so we estimate that by April of this year, if there is no adjustment in that contract or there's no additional appropriation given to fund the additional $20.8 million, that the authorized appropriation for that contract will run out by April of 2011. And that's one real issue that we still need to deal with, and I'm sure the governor is looking at that, trying to figure out what he's going to do. The other element of the budget that has not been included, which is an unbudgeted, is the Department of Mental Health's permanent injunction. And this was a ruling that was issued, I think, in late December, sometime, in which the district court ordered that sums of money be set aside to, in fiscal year 2011, to implement the amended permanent injunction plan that was submitted by the court management team for the Department of Mental Health pursuant to a lawsuit. And they ordered a total of $12.2 million to be set aside in increments of $2 million and $1 million during this fiscal year. And that will total for this fiscal year $12.2 million. The other item that we've looked at is the annual leave cash out, which is the lump sum for the unclassified personnel of the outgoing administration. And this, of course, includes your directors, deputy directors, and the governor's office staff, and other unclassified personnel. And this totaled $1.7 million from what we can quantify. When we looked at the budget, so what has happened is the governor has been taking appropriations that were authorized in the budget to fund some of these unbudgeted items. And that, to me, is a deviation from the budget plan of this government without any corresponding adjustments that has been proposed to account for those additional expenditures. And I think that the administration at this time is trying to quantify where those adjustments are going to come from to make up for these unbudgeted items. Where are we at with regards to the deficit? The Office of Finance and Budget estimates that the deficit is about $324 million. And this is contained in a report that we had put together during the budget process last year called Closing the Fiscal Gap Report, published in August of 2010. And you can find these reports on the Office of Finance Legislative Budget. The data was compiled, of course, in collaboration with this Special Economic Service Group and the Special Accounting Service Group, two of the groups of financial professionals within the government of Guam. At the end of the long week we've seen in the first couple of weeks of the incoming administration, we've seen and been barraged with press releases by the Calvo administration saying the sky is falling and the sky is falling. And of course, the professionals that deal with government finance, such as yourselves, know that we are struggling, but have the knowledge, the skills, and the ability, I think, to manage this situation. I don't think we should be pulling the panic button at this time, but we should face the realities that we see and find a way to deal with them. But to run around and I think say that we are going to be in a financial crisis of $120 million shortfall for the operations of this government of Guam is a little irresponsible given where we're at today with regards to the revenue collections that we see and the plan that's contained in the budget to deal with some of these issues. I think your expertise was certainly instrumental with the Office of Finance and Budget and the legislature to develop the fiscal policy mandates in the 2011 Budget Act. Much as your work is found in the Chapter 1 of the Budget Act, which outlines the deficit reduction strategy based on preserving government service to the people and using all the revenues collected above the projections to reduce our deficit. And that's how you have to address your deficit. You're not going to just take all of your money from your operating requirements, apply it to your deficit, and then shut down the government because you've used your cash to pay for priority obligations entirely. And I think that's the difference, and that's what hasn't been transparent with the new administration, is that they quantified a shortfall, but they are saying that that shortfall and mixing it up with the operational shortfall based on the budget that's passed. If that is true, then that means that the governor wants to and will pay the $20 million COLA judgment remaining, or 18.5 to be exact. He's saying it's 23. Our numbers say 18.5. Then he's going to take current year operating requirements and budget and pay that liability. And I don't think he's going to be doing that. He hasn't said he's going to do that, yet he's already saying he's going to have a $23 million shortfall at the end of this fiscal year. And that just isn't the case. He's mixing apples and oranges, and I think we can't do that when we're talking about where we're going to go forward and how we're going to address some of the challenges we have in this budget. And I think that if they follow the plan that's been developed with your help